So Dave Ehrenberg, as just discussed, so much of this trial is going to shadow the upcoming election. So therefore, timing is a big part of it. So I had a question for you. Trump is facing so much in the way of legal issues, but many believe this is the most important case. What's your best analysis as to the sequencing of these trials, in particular this one, the January 6th case, this attempt to overturn the election? When do you think this trial will get started, and is there going to be any merit at all to Trump's wish for a change of venue, particularly to a deep red state like West Virginia?
Good morning, Jonathan. No, he's not going to get this case moved from Washington, D.C. Judge Chutkan is a well-respected judge. Just because she ruled against him previously doesn't give grounds for him to move this case. And it's interesting he wants to move it to a neutral site like West Virginia, where he won by 40 points in the last election. So instead of Judge Chutkan, he would rather have, Judge Jeanine and maybe the My Pillow guy as a neutral arbiter. He's not going to get that. As far as the timetable, I think what you'll see is this case will go first. And that's because Washington, D.C. Circuit, they have zero tolerance for games to delay things. Judge Chutkan's not going to put up with any tactics. Judge Cannon, I think, by contrast, down here, is going to grant Donald Trump his multiple requests for delays. In fact, I think the trial on the documents will take place after the election. I think it's going to get moved again and again until after the election. And one thing that's interesting is that my counterpart in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, recently said that he would be okay with stepping aside, moving his trial to allow for the feds to take precedence. And that's something that we state prosecutors often do. If the feds want to try a case, we let them. If they want to go first, right, we step aside. And so I think this case will go first even before the New York trial. You could actually see this go in 8 months, which would be around March.
Yeah, and let's just say, obviously, Judge Cannon has been roundly criticized by the 11th Circuit for some decisions she made regarding special counsel. But let's just say here, in her defense, if it is moved back, in her defense, obviously, this documents case, far more complicated because you're dealing with so much classified material than the January 6th case, where it looks like Jack Smith, this is a very lean, taut indictment of Donald Trump. It's something that you can almost prove on four corners of that indictment and just have discovery on those issues with those people. Judge Cannon's going to be dealing with a bit more complicated issues regarding security in her case, correct?
Yes. All true. There's the federal act, the SEPA Act, that applies to the documents case that does not apply here to January 6th. And Jack Smith clearly wants this case to go first. And you know how we know that, Joe? As you said, it's a streamlined case where the other co-defendants, the co-conspirators, were not even indicted here. There are 6 other people who will be indicted in this case, but they're not indicted with Trump because Jack Smith didn't want them to bring the case down. So their day of getting their day of reckoning is coming. I do think that you also saw that Jack Smith didn't want to swing for the fences here. As you said, it's a taut case. It's only the charges that he thinks he could prove beyond a reasonable doubt. There's no seditious conspiracy or incitement of a riot or insurrection charged here. The charges he filed were largely charges we expected months ago. After all, a year ago, Judge David Carter said it was more likely than not that Donald Trump committed the crimes of obstruction of an official proceeding and conspiracy to defraud the United States. So these charges are really not much of a surprise.
Yeah, and it's I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's it also is likely that, as in the other case, there are going to be some more charges that are going to be coming later, some superseding charges that are coming later. But you're right. He started this thing out, and he wants it on the rocket docket to get it moving. State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Dave Ehrenberg.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you so much. So, Sarah, let me ask you, in the Republican Accountability Project, the same question that I ask my fellow former Republican travelers what they're hearing from people close to them who have supported Donald Trump over the past couple of elections. I've noticed, Charlie Sykes has noticed, other former Republicans have noticed that there is an exhaustion that has set in, and people, a lot of Republicans, I'm not saying 55 or 60% of Republicans, but a lot of Republicans I'm talking to now who've been with Trump from the very beginning are now saying, I'm exhausted, I'm tired of him attacking other Republicans, we got to find somebody else because I want to win.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right? You can't beat something with nothing. And this field of candidates has been showing us nothing. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Tim, all of them have decided that they are not going to go hard at Trump. They're going to defend him when these charges come out. And as a result, Donald Trump continues to dominate this primary, and all of these other candidates have become, you know, sort of bit players in the central drama around Donald Trump. And so there's no opportunity for somebody else to break through. And look, I talk to these Republican voters every week, these two-time Trump voters, and there is a chunk of them that want to move on, but they don't have somebody clearly to move on to. In fact, I did a group just this week, and I was asking them, okay, well, if Donald Trump isn't the nominee, who would you like to see? And there was, well, I like Tim Scott. He seems nice. Boy, I like Vivek Ramaswamy. And nobody even brought up Ron DeSantis. He just didn't even get mentioned organically, which I thought was telling. But there's nobody that people are consolidating around that they're excited about. And that's the problem, is that there's just got to be somebody to really go head to head with this guy, with Donald Trump. And nobody has emerged. And frankly, they've all chosen, it looks like, to run for second place because they're all defending him.
Yeah, you can't beat something with nothing. It's a catch-22, though, isn't it, Peter Baker? Because you can't beat the guy at the head of the pack if you're afraid to go after the guy at the head of the pack. But the loyalty runs so deeply to Donald Trump, even from people who are exhausted. You know, they may want to move on from Donald Trump, but they don't want fellow Republicans attacking this guy when the media is attacking him, liberals are attacking, Democrats. You know, seems to be sort of this feeling, I can criticize Donald Trump, but I sure don't want to hear other Republican candidates or the media attacking him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, there are Republicans who have gone straight at him, like Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson and Will Hurd, and they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't found any traction. They're still stuck in very low single digits. And so that strategy hasn't worked any better than the not going after him strategy. Right now, he is the dominant, uncontested figure inside the Republican Party, and both attacking him and sucking up to him hasn't seemed to work for any of the other contenders. They have not demonstrated that they can attract much of a following or, in fact, be the alternative. For a long time, I sort of thought they were running on the assumption that Trump would eventually self-destruct, right? That they weren't going to take him on because they would wait for him to implode, and then they would pick up the pieces by not having alienated his base. But that doesn't seem to be happening. There doesn't seem to be any sign that Trump is going to collapse of his own weight. Now, this third indictment is more serious than the other two in the sense that the issues at stake are so much more fundamental to our system. It's harder to sort of brush off, hush money for a porn star, mishandling documents. This goes to the heart of our democracy, and obviously it forces Republican voters, at the very least, to take a little bit more seriously what he's been accused of. But so far, we haven't seen any signs of slippage in a major way that would provide an opening for some other candidate.